Hey there, welcome to update 6 of the new Matcha Cafe. This is like the millionth time I've re-recorded this. Um, I actually recorded this update video yesterday? Day before yesterday? I don't remember when I did it. It was sometime yesterday. But it was before I was able to test some of the functionality I put in with multiple people. And a lot of things were broken, and it was very frustrating. I had to change enough in the world that I now have to re-record this. And today I'm trying to re-record this, and the words aren't coming out right. So please bear with me as I try to stumble through this update video. There's not much to be said, but still I'm struggling with it. Anyway, about everything you see right here. In fact, I think everything you see right here is the extent of the update. The downstairs does not. There's no bar yet. I know I've been like teasing that for a few updates. But there was a lot of work put into this update. I've been really busy. And I still wasn't really sure what I want to do with the bar because I want to change it up a bit, and I think I have a good idea of what I want to do now, but I didn't at the beginning of the week, so there's that. Another thing to note before I jump into talking about all this business is there's no objectives this week, and I don't know if there will be objectives again. I'm going to keep objectives in mind for the future. Like I'm not throwing them out entirely, but I think last week I said, well, next week I'll get back to making objectives, but I was thinking about it, and it's just, they take a really long time to make, and like that takes away from like focus of actually making the world, and it's been worth it up to this point because I think they're really fun. I think people really enjoy them. In fact, I mean, people have said so. However, the whole purpose of it was like, hey, you're building the cafe too, and I think that made a lot of sense for the updates that had the objectives. But we're getting closer to a 1.0 release. Things are getting more finished. And at this point, it's mostly a lot of smaller stuff. Obviously, there is some big stuff that still needs to be added, but like at this point, there's more of a world to enjoy beyond like just like silly little objectives that I make. And I think if I were to add objectives at this point, like it wouldn't be too bad, but I think they detract from the focus a little bit, which is just enjoying the world. I think there's more world to enjoy now, and there's less need for the extra stuff. So there may not be objectives in the future, and I'm sorry if you enjoyed them and wanted to see more. I mean, there will be more worlds for me in the future, so like as soon as I get this one done, there'll be more stuff like that. But yeah, I think for now, at the very least, like I'm not gonna be adding objectives, or at least I'm not gonna set myself to like I'm not gonna strive to like have an objective every single week if it doesn't make sense. So yeah, let's get into it. There's not much to get into. Like I said, everything you see here is about it. This week's just been basically modeling everything you see here, all the small stuff, and putting it in, which is a lot of work actually. To those who maybe don't know, much about 3D modeling, or even if you do, you may not expect all this stuff to take so much time, but it really does. It's like all the small stuff is what takes the most time. You may or may not know that like professionals who, whether you're like a level designer putting together a level in a video game, or if you're a professional working on like a 3D interior for a movie or something like that, like those people, while they may like actually like model like the big stuff, like the interior of this cafe, like the hollowing out of this tree, all that stuff. They may model that stuff and set all those things up. Most of the time, professionals will use a model library for small things like these cups over here and these plates and whatever these containers are and all that. Like, people use model libraries because it just takes so much time to make all this stuff that like you'll never finish your thing if you're modeling everything from scratch. But that being said, my goal in this world was not to use other people's work. I wanted to make everything completely from scratch. There are exceptions to that, I'm sure. I'm trying to think of what those exceptions are. I can't think of any, but I'm sure there will be something in the future where I'm like, I'm just going to use something else. I'm just going to use something someone else made. But for now, like, I think it makes a more cohesive feel, even if it takes a long time, if I make everything. And that's what this week was all about. It was just making all the small stuff, just making this. And like there's a handful of models here you may not realize. Like, it's time consuming. Even this tip jar, which is the only thing that that's not what I meant to do. This is the only thing that I like brought in from the old cafe. But even then, like, I had to bring it into Blender and like clean up the model because I had no idea what I was doing when I was making the models before. And like, I should have just made it from scratch because it would have been a lot simpler. But yeah, I had to bring this in and basically reconstruct the whole thing, and like edit the texture and remap the UVs and everything. So yeah, like this, even something that I brought in from the old cafe took a long time. Yeah. I did some really interesting stuff with like some of the menus and like some of the details on the machine here and this sign, that I would like to go into detail. Once again, there's a lot of things I'd like to go into detail in other videos. I've just been so busy like working on the world itself that I haven't been able to make these videos. But I've done some really interesting things to keep the file size down. So they may look a little weird, and you may not be able to put your finger on it. But like, if you look at these menus up here, like, they don't have what's called MIP mapping, which basically lowers the resolution of them when you're far away. So they get kind of pixely. But without going into detail of why that is, the reason I went with this method is it keeps file size down. I'm trying to keep file size down. I think we're above 100 megabytes with this update, which is, it's just inevitable that the file size gets bigger. But with the amount of detail I put in, it would have been a lot more. So just keep in mind that there are small things that may look a little weird. But it's because it's for the benefit of people with slow internet and that sort of thing. I don't want people having to download a billion things and spending like an extreme amount of time downloading the world, because I know people with really slow internet and like it's a pain for them to go to new worlds, because it's like, well, I'm gonna be waiting for 30 minutes anyway. Yeah, let's talk about the food and the drink machines real quick. Whoa, that's too far. So we've got coffee makers and a tea maker here. And like in the original cafe, you can click the buttons and they'll make you a drink, which I enjoy quite a bit. They're essentially the same as the original cafe. Except this time, like in the original cafe, you press the button and like a cup showed up and you started hearing noises that you know, gave you the impression that a drink was being made. And then once the noise was done, you could pick up the cup and there'd be a drink in it. But there was no like particle effect or anything showing like liquid pouring out. But this time around, there's no real easy way to show it the way I'm demonstrating things right now. But like when you actually do it, all the noise and all that stuff happens. But you actually see liquid pouring out, and like you can actually see the cup filling up, and I think that's really cool. That's something I always wanted to do when I made the cafe, the original one. But I was never able to do it. I was too dumb. But I'm not too dumb now. So that's really cool. But yeah, all three of these do that. There is a weird bug. I think it only happens with the coffee makers, but it might happen with the coffee maker and the tea. I don't know. But if you like press this button and then this button too quickly, or vice versa, whichever button you press second, it'll go through the animation of pouring the coffee and everything. But then once it's done, you actually don't get a coffee out of it. I think if you press one and then wait a second and then press the other, it's fine. But I don't know why that happens. I think it might be a VRChat thing. I think VRChat might assume that it's like it's spawning a duplicate of the item when it shouldn't be, and so it's like, oh, don't spawn that one. But I have no idea. And I don't think it's something I can fix. So just keep that in mind. It's not a big deal. If I could fix it, I would, and if I have, think of a solution to that, I will implement it. But for now, that's just a thing that happens. But yeah, that does work. But let's talk about the food real quick. I made these delicious looking treats, which I want to add at least a couple more food items, but I just ran out of time. But as I mentioned, the original update video that I made, there was more functionality, and the way I had it was like, or rather, let's contrast to the original cafe. The original cafe, you could you had to like click on a button. You like clicked on this muffin, and then a new muffin would appear, and you could pick that up. And then after a little while, you can click on this again, and you can get a new muffin again. Same with all the food items. This time around, I really wanted it to be that you just came and you picked up the food item that you wanted, and then the plate would replenish itself eventually. And I had that working, but it only worked when one person was in the room. I forgot that VRChat is really weird with spawning items, and so it didn't work with multiple people, and I don't know if there's a way to make it work with multiple people. I will look into it more, but it's a lot of work testing that stuff, and yeah, so I just had to disable it completely for now. So these are the 4 food items you get in this update. So you're gonna have to share. This is all you get. So don't squander it. But yeah, I will have something eventually, even if it's just the old system from the original cafe, but not in this update. And yeah, I think that's about it. I don't really think there's much else to talk about. I guess I could talk about the bell. There's a bell here. It doesn't work. It will work eventually. In the original cafe, I had a bell, and you can ring it, but only you hear it. Like no one else will actually hear the bell when you ring it. And I did that so people can't spam it, or so people can spam it, but the only people that are annoying is themselves. But I know people who like to go in here and pretend that they're actually like working at a cafe, and I think that's fun, and I want to appease those people and like actually have their bell be functional. But like I don't dare put in something someone can spam and be annoying with, unless I have an option to turn that off. Which it's just a bit of work. It's not too much work, but it's more work than I had time for this week. So yeah, that's a small thing, but yes, I will have the bell working eventually. Yeah. I don't really need to talk about much else. I could go into detail with every little thing. But yeah, I just real quick, I want to touch on the fact that I am still moving. It's about a week from now, almost exactly, is when I'll be moving. I will try to get some sort of update done this week if I can, but since it's the last week and I'm gonna have to be doing all that business, I'm gonna be really busy. I've already been really busy, and it's just gonna get more. And then I'm gonna be moved in, and I probably won't have internet for a while. So updates are gonna be spotty again this week, and maybe the next week, and hopefully not the week after. So just keep in mind, next week there may not be an update, or there may be a small one, and it may land in the middle of the week or something. I don't know. But be thankful you have one this week, damn it. Anyway, that's it. I'll see you in the next update. And as always, thanks for visiting.